It's about a lady, her name's Mae Buchanan, very independent, free-spirited woman, and she starts acting in ways that her father really doesn't like, so he says, you gotta get out of here if you're gonna act like that. He says you gotta go farther west, and basically she lands in Calgary for a couple of years, and then she ends up in Vancouver for a while, and she meets different characters along the way. I don't know, you guys.
I think that's it, really. We follow Mae's story and the people that she takes in, and I think also the men who are pursuing her across the country. It's quite a sweeping epic, and I think it takes place over 6 years, maybe, start to finish, and 3 provinces. And
it's late 1880s into the early 1890s, and frontier, cowboy kind of feel to it. These towns are just starting to blossom.
Yeah, these kind of railroad towns along.
Yeah. And Calgary's like a town of 400 or 500 basically at that point, and really starting to hit the boom with the railroad coming in. So. One of the last shows here was Great Expectations, and it's not Dickens. It's the same time period, pretty much. But 20 years later. But this is rough and tumble. The vocabulary is very simple. The words they use are very simple. It's and my character is a young, sort of a drifter who comes in, and he becomes an apprentice deputy, an apprentice sheriff. So his track is to sort of we watch how he handles gaining authority and how he can use it, and it's sort of his call to duty in a sense, I guess, and that's my character. He's in the first half. Matt's is totally different.
I play Thomas Shepard. He's one of the men that falls in love with Mae and pursues her forever. He's a rancher who's come up from the States to find work, and lays eyes on Mae Buchanan and decides that she will be his, and will get her by any means. So it's a hard role, but that at its center is real love, but gets twisted into a real obsession. It's fun.
I play Nettie McDowell, who's one of the women in the house, let's call it, that Mae starts up. It's a brothel.
Come on. That's also
it's not, so it's one of the women in the brothel that Mae starts, and there's Mae, and then there's three women that she employs. But they really are a bit of a family, and they've all kind of come from various places, and really have given their line of work quite an idyllic little, I think it's a best case scenario sort of situation in Calgary through the first half of the play, and it all kind of goes to shit in the second half. But that's it. Yeah, I'm one of Mae's ladies.
The relationship between men and women was substantially different back then. Speaking from my character's point of view, like, he really does want to possess her, and in that time, that's okay. It's sort of part of the relationship, at least in this play. And it's an extremely ruthless and brutal world, and in playing that, it's easy to fall into sentiment and to really fall in love with somebody. And it's a beautiful love scene, but it's not. That's what it might seem like, but the world is ruthless and brutal, and I'm going to take her, and she's going to be mine, and I love you. Got it? It's not Romeo and Juliet. At its in most romantic moments, anyways. It's a very harsh place, and so I guess tonally it's a big challenge to find where it sits because it doesn't
Yeah.
sit in a naturalistic, sentimental kind of world. It's a long time ago when everything was different. Men were men and
Yeah.
women were owned, I guess.
Yeah. However, to that though, there's also what I find it actually quite, in some ways, quite progressive in that these women own their own business.
That's true, yeah.
You know, they're like May is such a spectacular character because she's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna. She has a great line about she prefers her own pennies to anybody else's dimes, and she's doing it on her own, and she's quite industrious, and they're these kind of entrepreneurs and they can take care of themselves. Which doesn't always happen in stories set in 1888. So I find that kind of a good, it's like some connective tissue to today, that they're quite self-sufficient.
I've found that our director mentioned the other day that there's people who are in the law and people who are outside the law, and in this play there's quite a few people there's more people who are outside of the law. Mm-hmm. But I think that's because the laws are just being formed and made, and so it's kind of a new territory in that sense, both geographically and emotionally. And so when the character I'm playing, Ross, comes in, it looks to me off the top that he's an outsider and he is an outlaw, but he actually comes up into the law. And I think that's really interesting to sort of look at, because the character I'm portraying is one who actually starts going down the straight and narrow as opposed to going off into the sort of the darkness and the wilderness that both sexually and emotionally, and the way that our main characters are, where our leads are headed. So that's quite an interesting journey. There's a raw visceralness to it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that this show's going to go over people's heads in that sense. I think it will. There's a very robust kind of muscularity to this show, and it's even within the simplicity of the thoughts. And I mean, we have fights, and we have love scenes, and we have like guns being pulled on people, and we have songs and dances, and it's sort of an all-encompassing show. There's a lot of comedy as well. We're talking about the darkness of it, and we're talking about where it goes, but there is a lot of frivolity. There is a lot of like fun parts to it,
It's a real, it's like a freight train, You just kind of get on and it goes. It goes. It doesn't stop. It doesn't care who's in the way.
Yeah.
It's just going to go.
And that is the hope. Yeah, that people get on with us, I think, in terms of like what, because we're also in it right now too, so it's hard to kind of step outside and go, what will this be like? But I just hope that they will take that ride with us, because it does. It's huge. It's a really big story.